Good day to you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to FAF. In this episode, we're gonna go and take a look at the first two games of a show match between Mr. Nexus and Mr. Tagada. For those of you who don't know, the show match was played on May 21st and streamed on FAF Live. And what was it about? Simple. It was a showcase of our best mappers and players in our community, because not only we do have two really heavyweight champions on our hands, like Mr. Nexus and Tagada, but we're also gonna go and take a look at some of the best maps ever that we were graced in our community, made by Mr. Jeep, Mr. Bias, and Swenny Bad Boy. And believe me, those maps are quite top-notch quality. As you can already see, we are on a map Autumn, and we can really see that it looks beautiful. Just looks at these hills, at these mountains, and these rocks. So yep, a lot of nice and detailed work put by the mappers in here. So there really is a lot of nice stuff to go and actually showcase when we go and look at these maps. So yep, it was really worth playing it out. And it's gonna be 7 matches. 7 games. It's not really best of 7, we're just gonna go and play 7 matches, so basically Tagada or Nexus can go and win 5 games in a row, but we are still gonna go and have 2 more games, so all 7 maps will be showcased in this little tournament. As for the prize, it's gonna be €100 split between the players. So, without any further ado, let us go and see what do we have here. So, in the northwest corner we have Mr. Nexus, the currently reigning champion of FAF, going Lavender Violet in beautiful Cybran ACU. His enemy, the up-and-coming challenger of Ladder, is gonna be Mr. Tagada, playing Aeon in a bloody red color. When we go and actually zoom out, we can see that both players are gonna go and start out by expanding to the middle part of the map, because as we can see, there is actually some reclaim in here, so both players wanna go and actually contest it. We can also see that they're planning to go and use some light assault bots. In case of Tagada, it's gonna be flares, and in case of Nexus, it's gonna be a single mantis. We will see if they're actually gonna go and duke it out or not. As we can see them coming closer and closer, the mantis opens fire, but the flares are not gonna stay idle. As we can see that they're actually microing, as Tagada is gonna go and try to dodge as many shots as he can, but the first flare is actually gonna go and fall down. But Mantis is gonna be left with only 44 HP, and as such he will have to actually go and keep on running away. Because there is one more hunter coming in here. And he's gonna go and hunt down the enemy Mantis. Yep, there we go, the Mantis is no more. We can also see that there is a second air factory being built by Mr. Tagada, or more like already finished. And there is the first bomber of the game. Is Mr. Nexus actually capable of dealing with it or not? We don't see any MAA being built right now, even though the bomber should have been scouted by... Yep, both the bomber and scout were scouted by the air scout belonging to Mr. Nexus, but it seems like he's still not building any MAA. He's basically trying to go and focus on getting this interceptor out of the air factory. The bomber dropped 1 bomb and managed to actually kill 1 engineer. The air scout is down, the bomber is gonna go drop 1 more bomb. Is it actually gonna go and score some kills or not? The bomb is down, it falls down, and it manages to kill 1 more engineer and single land scout. But can it get 1 more pass or not? We can see that the interceptor is already on its tail. Few shots and the bomber is down, falling from the sky. But the conservator belonging to Mr. Tagada is gonna go and make the short work of the interceptor belonging to Nexus, but there comes 1 more, and as such this time it's the conservator that have trouble on its tail. And goodbye, sweet boy. Honestly, all in all, not a bad bomber. It did its job. And it seems like the air is gonna be even for now, as both players are gonna keep on producing interceptors for the moment. Let's see if there is anything else happening. We have a single mantis on a mission here. in the bottom south corner, but there is an ACU coming closer and closer, and we will see if Tagada is actually gonna manage to save his little T1 engineer or not. As we can see, Mantis is here. The shots are being fired, and no, the engineer is not gonna survive. The ACU is not even gonna move into hell. There is even more Mantis coming in, but the scout should be able to go and spot them out, and as such the ACU should be able to go and intercept them. Yep, we can see that ACU is gonna move to intercept the Mantises. And as such, the raid is not gonna work out. There was also a small skirmish in the other part of the map, which we can see that Nexus actually won quite easily, killing off 3 enemy Auroras and not losing... Actually no, never mind. He killed 2 Auroras and lost a single Mantis, as we can see. But there is still 3 more available, and as such, Mr. Tagada will have to keep tabs on them, otherwise they can go and actually deal quite a lot of damage to the expanding engineers. And I can hear... okay, it must have been this little guy shooting all the time. Also, we can see that Mr. Nexus is gonna be really aggressive with his ACU as he's coming closer and closer to the base belonging to Mr. Tagada. You can see it back in the distance, you can even see some interceptors flying around over the base. 2 Auroras down, and it seems like there is nothing to actually go and stop the ACU belonging to Nexus. As it's gonna walk unobstructed. Gonna go and pick up a few more kills, get rid of T1 max extractors, and most likely after that it will just fall back to some of its units. So let's go and take a look at how many mexes both players have. It seems like nobody is actually taking to the T2 stage yet, because it seems to be a little bit too early for that, as both players are focusing more on getting the map control and getting some T1 spam rolling on. We can see that the ACU belonging to Tagada is gonna go and reinforce the middle position, because he saw that Nexus ACU is actually alone. There is an attack move coming from Auroras. The ACU belonging to Nexus is already under fire. But Nexus is gonna go say, nope, I'm out of here, I'm not taking this fight. I dealt enough damage, so for now we can just fall back and regroup. Because as we can see, there is not much units in here, so his ACU is actually quite vulnerable. A small airfight happening, but it seems like Mr. Nexus actually overestimated his air force, because it's only 3 interceptors going up against 7 or maybe even 8 belonging to Mr. Tagada, and as such, the airfight is won by Tagada. The Auroras got a little bit close to the ACU, and as such, we can see that Tagada go and suffered losses of 5 Auroras, which is not good. Really not good. Another fight happening on the north part of the map, as Auroras and Mantises are exchanging fire, but it seems like Tagada is gonna be the one to win this little skirmish, as he have way more units, and also he's able to go and guide back with the Auroras, which is not gonna play out well for Mr. Nexus. And I'm not sure why he's still pushing in with even more units. Okay, good. He actually did the order back, so the Mantises are gonna fall back and he won't lose any more tanks without any kind of a reason. Oh, there is a T2 LAN HQ finished by Mr. Nexus. We can already see Hopla is being produced. After all, if you are playing Cybran and you're having trouble with Aurora spam, you wanna go and get some of the T2 range bots rolling. Not only they have quite a big range, they also have enough alpha damage to go and one-shot Auroras in a single volley. And as such, we can see that Nexus is gonna go and capitalize on it. His ACU will have to fall back yet again, but the moment the range bots are here, it's gonna be the Auroras that's gonna be in trouble. A small push happening on the east flank. Few Mantises gonna go and pick up T1 Mexes, but Auroras are gonna be here to go and deny even a deeper push, so nope. 2 Mexes are all he's gonna go and get. As we could have seen before, Mr. Nexus went for a T2 LAN HQ, meanwhile Mr. Tagada is opting for Air HQ. We can see a single Spectre already dealing with the raids on the middle of the map. There's also a little drop, although it's gonna be just a few engineers, so it's only an expansion grabbing drop. Small skirmish yet again, happening on the left flank. Although not much is gonna be achieved as Spectres are in here to go and save the day. And as such, Mr. Nexus will have to go and get even more mass invested into T2 flag. Actually, there is already one banger here, and as such, Mr. Tagada will have to go and fall back with his units in here, as the Spectres drops down, and now it's the Interceptors that are gonna be under the fire. We can see that Mr. Tagada is already starting a gun range upgrade on his ACU, but Mr. Nexus, seeing what is happening, is gonna go and push in with his ACU, gonna go and get rid of a few Auroras. Although I really do hope that he would go and get a few rocket bots in here, as otherwise the ACU alone might not be enough to go and stop the upgrade for Mr. Tagada. As we can see that Nexus is gonna go and say, no, I can't do that yet. I'm gonna fall back and instead go and harass Tagada on the left flank. Oh, also one more great run by, this time through the middle of the map, as Cybrand players are gonna go and be Cybrand cunts, and as such they're gonna keep on using the enormous speed of the T1 tanks to go and make run-bys whenever they can. Even more units coming to the left flank. We're gonna go and see that the T1 land factory is gonna go and fall down to the Mantises. There is also a few rocket bots in the mix, and as such the Auroras are not gonna be so much of a threat to the units belonging to Nexus. Shots being exchanged. Few Auroras are dead, and as such few Mantises are also gonna go and fall down, as Nexus is actually not microing properly, as we can see that the Mantises are getting into the range, but it seems like he have actually way more other things to go and worry about, as he's gonna go and make one more run by, this time on the northeast part of the map, as we can see Hoplites and Mantises making a beeline for T1 Mexes. Gonna go and deal with them. After that they're gonna go and try to go for land factory and even more expansions belonging to Mr. Tagada, who's also nearly done with his beautiful gun com. The range and speed upgrades are done, and as such there's a hell of an ACU. The Spectres, the T2 gunships belonging to Tagada, are gonna go and deal with the run-bys by Mantises. But there is a bigger problem, because on the middle of the map we can see that there is a big push coming out from Mr. Nexus. Mantises spewing laser fire like there is no tomorrow. Although it seems like there is not enough AA in here, just a single banger, and as such the Spectres with proper micro are gonna be still healthy enough to go and deal with this little push. As Mr. Tagada recognizes that he cannot go and push in blind with his air units, as the flags can go and make a short work of them. He's also not utilizing his ACU, as he's gonna go and move it back to defend his main base. There's a small raiding party made of a single Spectre gunship on the northeast. We can see it getting rid of the expansion engineer and also getting rid of some T1 Mexes. But the action is actually happening on the bottom part of the map, as we can see that Nexus is still trying to go and use some leverage here with his big raiding party. He's gonna go and get rid of this expansion here. And really guys, this map is really beautiful. Looks really nice. You wouldn't think that this is something like this is actually possible in Subcom, so go and give a go to this beautiful autumn map. Good for 1v1s, not sure if you can play 2v2 on it, but surely a good ladder map. An Aurora raid happening here. Not the best unit for this kind of behind operations, as we can see that they're gonna go and die quite shortly, although Nexus mismanaging his hoplite a little bit, although it seems like it's gonna... Nope, it's gonna go and fall down. Nexus this time gonna go and use his ACU together with some of the units to go and grab the reclaim field in the east part of the map, but I do not think that he have any flak in here, and as such he will have to go and recognize the fact that Tagada have the T2 Air Force in here. not only a few gunships, but also a swift winds and a few interceptors. The airfight is happening, but it seems like oh no. Mr. Tagada just go and lost the airfight. That was a really bad turn. As we can see that the interceptors belonging to Mr. Nexus are making a quiet, clean sweep. As the units belonging to Mr. Tagada are falling one by one from the sky. You can see the wrecks falling, twirling in the air. As soon to be enough, they're gonna be nothing more than a wrecks. A really good fight by Mr. Nexus, and as such, Mr. Tagada will have to go and hide his T2 Spectres gunships. Otherwise, he's risking losing them all, as he clearly have no air control at this very moment. And as such, Mr. Nexus is gonna go and use this chance to once again make a push on the east part of the map. This flank had seen some... Actually, not some, there was actually many raids coming out from Mr. Nexus, some more successful, some not as much. But this time this big push should be able to actually go and gain a lot of advantage here, or map control. That is as long as it actually have air cover, because the Spectre's gunships are here yet again. You can see them raining death from the sky. As one more Rhino actually falls back, spotting the Air Force incoming, Mr. Tagada is gonna go and move back with his air units. Although the interceptors belonging to Mr. Nexus are gonna go and make a clean sweep and get rid of 2 interceptors and a 1 swift wing belonging to Mr. Tagada. Yet again, a good air engagement from Mr. Nexus. Now we can also see that there was a few Obsidians, heavy tanks belonging to Tagada, overextend by quite a big margin, and as such, we can see them fall down to the ACU. Although Nexus, do you have... Nope, he doesn't have an energy storage. I was wondering why he's not overcharging the Obsidians, but it seems like he's having quite a trouble to get his economy back in order. Although no, never mind. He's investing heavily in the T2 mass extractors, that's why he's stalling so hard. A big push coming on the west flank, as we can see that Mr. Tagada have his T2 land forces up in power and rearing to go. As such, Mr. Nexus will actually have to consider leaving this part of the map undefended, as a few rocket spots is not gonna be nowhere enough. There is the T1 PD, which should be able to go and buy some time for the reinforcement to come in, but a few... Oh no, never mind, that wasn't Fair Force, that was just Obsidians shooting over the walls, making a short work out of the T1 PD, and as such the left flank is actually undefended. 1 more T1 max to go. And it seems like that's gonna be it for this flank, as Mr. Nexus will have to go and move some units to reinforce it. Although it seems like if Mr. Tagada isn't gonna move his units, the rocket spots are gonna go and harass them just long enough, and soon enough the Obsidians will go poof in flames. But both players are not really interested in smashing their heads on the left flank, as we can see that they have other things to focus on. As Mr. Nexus is going full on eco mode, getting his T1 mass extractors in base up to level 2. Already 3 of them, 1, 2 and 3. Here is the 4th one being upgraded. And when I look on the map, I don't really see any more T2 maxes. Yep, it's only this few in the core base, and when we look at Mr. Tagada, let's do it like that. Yep, also 3 T2 maxes. And the 4th one is already being upgraded, and let's see if there is anything else being done. Nope, not really. And when we look at the mass income for both players, Mr. Tagada is on 53 per tick. Meanwhile, Nexus just a tad bit behind. One mass extractor behind, so he's on 51 mass income per second. So just a difference of a single T1 mass extractor. Another good push coming up from Mr. Nexus, as he's gonna go and gain some control in the middle. just enough to go and scoop up the mass from the wrecks, which should be his priority, because it seems like he doesn't have enough units to make a bigger push. So just go get all the mass that you can from the middle, because we can see that there is a lot of it, at least half K, which is a lot for ladder standards. So Mr. Nexus should really be looking to scoop up it with the ACU. A nice push on the left flank, because we have seen that Mr. Tagada moved some of his forces to the middle to go and reinforce this position, as Mr. Nexus was looking for a push there. But no, that was just a bait. That was nothing more but a bait, so he can go and make a push on the left flank. Although it seems like he doesn't have any units to protect him from air, just 2 bangers, and that's not gonna be enough. A few rhinos gonna go and fall down to Spectre's gunships. Although Tagada is gonna move them back, seeing that there is flak in range. There is also a big run by happening on the east flank, as we can see a T1 mechs falling down to few mantises, as they are making rounds all around the units belonging to Mr. Tagada, which unfortunately are quite slow. Obsidians are actually heavy tanks, and as such you cannot expect them to move fast, and the same goes for Aurora, which are also the slowest T1 tank available on the T1 stage. So Tams, Mantises and T1 Strikers are just way faster. And as such, the Mantises can go and make circles all around the Aeon units at the T1 stage. One more push coming out from Mr. Nexus, although I do not think it's gonna go and find anything good here, as he's gonna have to go and fall back yet again. And let's look at the bases, because we are at 20 minutes in game, so it's possible to make a T3 land HQ switch, and yep, Mr. Tagada clearly going for a T3 land upgrade. Not assisting it, but I don't think there is a reason for it, considering he's really struggling in the mass deposit. Meanwhile, Mr. Nexus, let's see, yep, he's going all in on the T3 land upgrade. The HQ is nearly done, 90% done, so only 10% left. As we can see that Mr. Nexus is gonna go and make a swift push for the T3 land. Maybe gonna go for a few Buncers to go and get rid of the stupid Air Force belonging to Mr. Tagada, because these gunships are really becoming quite a pain in the ears. And now when we look at the air count, 45 air units for Mr. Nexus. Meanwhile, Tagada with only half the number, but 14 swift winds. Although, to be honest, I don't think this is enough to actually go and win this fight. So in case that an airfight happens, I'm afraid that Nexus still have quite a good shot at killing the units belonging to Tagada. But the Spectre's gunships are gonna keep on harassing him. He's gonna even go and lose T2 mass extractors, 2 of them, which is gonna be a really heavy blow to him, as it seems like half of the units belonging to Nexus are out of fuel, and as such not really capable of making a good air engagement. As we can see, he's not gonna risk it. He's gonna go and consider these 2 mass extractors to be dead and not worthy of trying to go and win the air. There's a big fight happening on the left flank, as we can see Obsidians making a really good push. After all, they are quite a powerful units. Big shield, some good HP pull, and obviously a great gun. Oh, bunch of Medusas pushing in, doing a short work of the T1 engineer, and now they're gonna go and get rid of the T1 land factory. But there is also a push happening in the middle. A big force just came in here from Mr. Tagada, but they're gonna go and retreat to the east flank, as Mr. Tagada is afraid of the loyalists coming in here and losing his big expedition force. Although the loyalist is basically dead, just one more hit and he's gonna go and say goodbye 2 shots from Obsidians missed, but now the second salvo is gonna go and get rid of the Loyalist T3 bot. The Rhino also falls down, Banger is dead, and it seems like Mr. Nexus will actually have to go and run away now, as Obsidians are just a force to be reckoned with. The Loyalist not gonna do much at all. What the fuck? Oh boy, this is actually really bad. It seems like Mr. Tagada lost all of his interceptors and even 4 Swift Twins. What a bad air engagement. If anything, it seems like Tagada wasn't even aware that his air is being engaged on by Mr. Nexus. A really good fight for him. Nexus winning the air yet again. It seems like it's just not Tagada's day when it comes to dealing with the air units. The little run by on the left flank is gonna deal considerable damage, getting rid of some T2 mass extractors, as you can see. It being under heavy fire, and then poof, up it goes in flames. As more and more specters are being moved in to go and deal with it. But worry not, it was a good raid. Now another engagement, as Mr. Nexus is gonna keep on using his Loyalists to go and try to make a dent in the big force of Obsidians. One is down, but the Loyalists are taking heavy damage in return. As we can see them falling one by one. There is Asylums coming in here to go and shield the front line for Obsidians. The Rhino goes down. As we can see that the Obsidians were not a mistake. They are a force to be reckoned with. The little Iron Beasts of the T2 stage. Honestly, I would love to see more of them being used. But for whatever the reason, most players are just not using them at all. Instead going for the fast blazes. Or even entirely trying to skip the T2 phase and go for the not Loyalists but the Harbingers. Not a good outlook for Mr. Nexus, losing all of his C3 units in here. And also, finally, we have some Harbingers on the field. As Mr. Tagada is bringing his T3 units to the flank. An expedition force by Nexus on the left flank. We will see if it's gonna do much or not, because there is just 2, no, actually there is 3 flags. But I'm afraid it might not be enough to go and deal with the Spectres gunships. The Hoplite dealing some damage from afar, although it's gonna go and come a little bit too close to the Obsidians, which just sharpen their turrets and get rid of the nasty rocket bot in a single salvo. Mr. Nexus feeling quite confident with his ACU, as it seems like he's gonna go and yet again contest the east flank, which I don't think is such a good idea, considering he's only have 3 Loyalists. Okay, make it 5. 5 Loyalists and a few T2 engineers, but I'm unsure if it's actually gonna be nowhere enough. Let's see if he have overcharge ready. Yep, this time he have energy storage ready, and as such he's capable of overcharging the units belonging to Tagada. As more and more fall down. But the Loyalists are not traying so nicely. Those aren't good trays, believe me, Nexus, you're losing way too many units. And now Tagada is gonna go and make a pushback. He's gonna move his units in and focus on the ACU belonging to Mr. Nexus, as it's taking more and more fire. The ACU drops up below 7k HP. But the Loyalists are gonna go and work as mid shields, but losing the Loyalists is also meaning that you're losing a lot of DPS in here. And there is also a big expedition force coming in to pincer attack the ACU belonging to Mr. Nexus. Also, when we go and actually zoom out, there is Spectre's gunship coming in here, and there is nothing to protect him at all. A single brick is not gonna be enough, as the ACU belonging to Mr. Nexus is gonna go and fall out below 3k HP. 3k, 28, 2k HP, and it seems like there is nothing else. There's the air fight happening on the over the ACU, but the ACU is actually gonna die in here. There is no way Mr. Nexus gets out alive, as the ACU goes up in flames. GG's coming out from both players, as we can see that the thermonuclear explosion is happening. A beautiful sight, and it seems like Mr. Nexus the reigning champion of FAF actually lost the first game. And as such, it's 1-0 for Mr. Tagada. And well, this map is beautiful, so go and give it a try. See you in the other part. And we're back on it, with the game number 2 between Mr. Nexus and Tagada in a show match. Between those two on 7 beautiful handcrafted maps. This time, the second map is gonna be Mauve. Mauve? Mave? Mava? I have no clue how to actually go and pronounce it, but anyway, it's 10 by 10. Perfect ladder map. But let's see what are the colors and ACUs this time, because in the top corner we have Mr. Tagada playing UEF in bloody red, going up against Mr. Nexus, also playing UEF this time in a beautiful lavender violet. Both players gonna go and start out with a land factory. After that, a standard build order into second air factory. And Mr. Tagada, what are you gonna do? Exactly the same, it seems. As both players are gonna go for an early air factory, most likely to go and secure the expansions behind their bases, because as we can see there is a lot of small mass deposits here. Also a few mech spots that you wanna go and grab as fast as possible. But Mr. Nexus is actually gonna go for a single mech marine together with a Snoop to go and support it, as he's gonna go and try to go for a cheeky engineer kills. Meanwhile, Mr. Tagada is going all out on the engineer production, seeing that he's gonna go and get 5 engineer before he even gets the first tank out. And as such, his engineers are not gonna be defended, which might come to bite him in the arse if the lab belonging to Nexus actually scores a few kills. Although it seems like Nexus is gonna go and try to go for the engineers expanding behind the main base. Which unfortunately, there are no engineers going there at all. Because 2 engineers went for the Hydro in the middle, and the other 2 went for the left and right expansions, as we can see. Also gonna go and grab some of this juicy reclaim here in the north part of the map. And Nexus is gonna do actually exactly the same. So far both players playing in the exact same manner. Although we can see Nexus actually going for the back expansion with land engineers. And Tagada is actually not doing it. Let's see. There is no transport being built by him, so I don't know why the hell is he delaying the expansion so hard. I would most likely have already a single engineer going this way backwards to go and grab this Nexus and the Hydro. Just like Nexus is doing in here, as you can see. An engineer going to go and grab the Hydro. Like this little lab just walked all around the map just to find nothing at all. There is not a single engineer behind the base. And Tagada is... oh no, he actually changed the build order on the air factory. As we can see, he's gonna go and grab the Courier, the C6 Courier, the light air transport on T1. And Tagada actually going with a sneaky cliff build of a factory in here. Gonna go and use it to grab the mass from killing this civilian units in here, although there is a single PD, so he will need some T1 RT. Meanwhile, on the Nexus side, it seems like he's not interested at all in grabbing this little reclaim here. He's gonna leave it up to their shenanigans, as civilians are just gonna go and keep on chilling in the middle, doing nothing at all. Oh boy. Did this little guy really go and walk a full circle around the map? As we can see that only now is Tagada dropping single T1 engineers behind his base. So yeah, this is actually sad, but here comes the interceptors. Gonna go and try to get rid of the T1 air transport belonging to Mr. Tagada. The transport takes a lot of damage, although is it actually gonna go and manage to go and drop the engineers? Okay, one more. Is he gonna do it or not? Well, here comes the other interceptors, and no, the transport falls down, but the engineer is gonna get squashed right below it. Although it still managed to go and drop 4 engineers, so it's not a big loss. Even more so as Nexus lost his interceptors to the air units belonging to Tagada. And when we look at the map, so far it's looking kind of the same, with the only difference being that Nexus is actually way ahead on the unit production. You can see that there is a bunch of tanks going in both directions. Meanwhile, Tagada on... Okay, the lab is back at it. He managed to go and secure 1 kill on the engineer behind the base. And is he gonna go and get rid of more or not? We can see the small guy coming closer and closer, the shots are being fired, but the engineers react on time as we can see them reclaim the T1 lab just in time. A small incursion by Tagada. Gonna deal some damage to the interceptor, but after that, I'm afraid a single tank is not gonna win against 3. And as such, Mr. Tagada will have to go and fall back yet again. An interesting choice to actually go and move in here to try to go and get rid of the civilian buildings on the Nexus part of the map. T1 bomber dealing some considerable damage to the T1 units in here. The interceptors are not reacting yet. We can see a move order, although it seems like Nexus is actually wanna preserve them, because he's afraid of losing the airfight. And there it is, the airfight is actually happening, but it is Tagada who's gonna go and lose it. He was the one to start it off. And yet, Mr. Nexus is gonna go and come out victorious. The T1 bomber gonna keep on harassing this little raiding force, as there is nothing to go and actually stop it so far. Although it's incapable of dropping the bombs, so a real shame. But on the middle part, we have Mr. Nexus walking his beefy ACU closer and closer. Oh no, that is actually not where you wanna make your pigeons, Tagada. You will have to actually go and invest in T1 PDs, and 2 of them, otherwise you're gonna go and lose this expansion. This wasn't the best idea, really, mate. This wasn't good. As we can see that the ACU belonging to Nexus is gonna go and open fire. The T1 PD is up and running. Although it seems like Nexus is gonna go and recognize the danger of it, and as such he's gonna go and keep on falling back. Some tanks coming out from the factory. But soon enough Mr. Nexus should be able to go and grab a few T1 arties. Or actually, no, he's already at the T2 stage. We can see pillars being built by Mr. Nexus at 7 minutes into the game. And let's see if Tagada is gonna go and respond in kind. Yep, T2 HQ being built right now. 95% done, and as such, it's here on the field. And T1 tanks gonna get mowed to death by Pilar belonging to Mr. Nexus, as we can see strikers taking fire. 1, 2, 3 already dead. I don't think they're gonna go and stay alive in here. Another one bites the dust. 2 more on really low HP. Kaboom, baby. 1 more goes down, and 3rd one up in flames. As Mr. Nexus is actually forcing Tagada to go and fall back, but the ACU belonging to Tagada is here. And holy hell, this bomber is really having trouble getting rid of these tanks in here. Like they managed to walk all the way from this part of the map here, like this, here, when you look at my cursor, like this, and only now did they die. Oh boy. He really took his sweet time. The pillars are joining the ACU in the middle, and as such the units belonging to Tagada will have to go and fall back it again. But what he really needs is a T1 arty. Okay, there is 2 of them. A big run by on the right part of the map. As we can see, mech marines bravely walking towards the... They're gonna die here. Poor guys. Brave little guys, but they're gonna go and die just like this. It pains my heart. Although, what the hell is this land factory doing here on the beach, just chilling, doing nothing at all? Come on, Nexus, go and squash it, squash this little base in here. But Tagada is actually gonna go and make a move on the east flank, as we can see his ACU and a few T1 units coming closer yet again. Although we would like to go and see some kind of gun upgrade or even a T2 upgrade on the ACU belonging to Mr. Tagada. The pillars in here gonna go and make a short work of the T1 units, as the strikers and lobos are not gonna be a match to the mighty pillars. Okay, one PD is actually dead. There is one more to go. We can see shells flying in the air. Oh no, the Lobo is gonna die just like this. And there is a T2 engineer being dropped by Mr. Tagada. And as such, I'm afraid we will see some T2 PDs in here, and as such, Mr. Nexus will need to get some MMLs in the mix. Otherwise, he can go and forget about breaking this little fire base here in this valley. Okay, let's see what else is happening. A small raid with two pillars on the left flank, which is not gonna achieve much because Tagada was ready to intercept it with a few T1 tanks. A small skirmish on the right part, as Mr. Nexus is finally starting the gun upgrade on his ACU. The ACU belonging to Tagada and gonna go and make sure that the pillars are not here for much longer. As Nexus is gonna go and move back, but Tagada is gonna go and use this chance to go and make a push back in the middle. But I'm afraid that his T1 units are not gonna be nearly enough to go and deal with the beasts that pillars are. Tagada coming closer and closer with his ACU to the T1 PD. Yep, he have T1 arty in here, and as such he's capable of dealing with it. We can see Lobos coming closer and closer, but that's not the attack order. That was just a move order, and that's not gonna work out. Small incursion on the right part, as we can see a small force of 4 strikers trying to go and reclaim the beach. As there is only 2 enemy strikers. Okay, never mind. The factory is actually starting to produce some units. The PD is actually dying slowly but surely. Wait, why are they not hitting the... Okay, they're hitting it now. One more shot and the PD is dead. Kaboom! There it goes in flames. And now Mr. Tagada is capable of pushing in closer. But the gun ACU belonging to Nexus is on the field, and as such I'm not sure that Mr. Tagada is actually capable of staying here for much longer. The shots are being fired. As Tagada is taking a lot of damage, and as such he decides to fall back. A small fight on the left flank, as it seems like pillars belonging to Mr. Tagada are gonna go and duke it out with pillars belonging to Nexus. And they're gonna go and come out victorious so far. We can see them exchanging shells. But I'm afraid that the Lobos are gonna make the difference in here, as we can see. Both players taking a lot of damage from the T1 artillery. And... okay, T1 transport down, shot down, but actually it already managed to go and drop down the T1 engineers, which will be used to go and speed up the T2 upgrade on the Tagada ACU in here. Because Nexus with his gun is gonna actually prove to be quite a problem here. We can see him overcharging a few T1 units, getting closer and closer to the first veterancy. And it seems like these little tanks are actually not gonna be capable of getting rid of this T1 factory in here. A small raid happening here, but it won't amount to much. If anything, the pillar right here is gonna be the dangerous one, but it seems like Tagada have his own in here. And as such, I'm afraid it will just be enough to go and kill a single T1 mechs and a few T1 units. Nothing more than this. T2 transport dropping even more pillars to stop this little rampaging one. 2 more shots, or actually it's gonna get out. Nexus saying no, this land belongs to me. There are 2 triads built by Mr. Tagada, but I'm not sure if it's gonna be enough, because we can see that MMLs, the flapjacks, are on the field for Mr. Nexus. There is also a... okay, it's not a Sparky, it's a T2 engineer, also building his own triads, and as such, it seems like it might become a little war of Tug, as both players are gonna keep on exchanging the control over this little... actually, it's not little, there is actually a lot of reclaiming here at this point of the game. So both players trying to gain control over it. We can see that T2 PD belonging to Mr. Nexus actually dealing damage to the PDs belonging to Tagada. The first triad goes down, and it seems like the engineers are gonna be just enough to keep this little one here going on. Even though it's taking fire, it's gonna stay alive. Tagada gonna go and try to make a push with his own units, but he's actually unable to go and win it. What he needs is MML. But whoa, look at this. There is a bunch of pilots going through the middle of the map. And they're sneaky bricky, trying to go and sneak past the units belonging to Tagada. They already dealt quite a considerable damage on this, but we can see 3 T1 mass extractors down. There's also more units making a run-by for the back base. The north expansion belonging to Tagada, which is actually gonna suffer some losses, as 2 pillars are just enough force to be reckoned with. But the big fight is happening on the right flank, as Mr. Tagada is investing more and more mass into static T2 PD defense. Meanwhile, Nexus is gonna move in his T2, I mean the Guncom, closer and closer. Gonna fire a few shots, and actually I'm afraid that if he were to go and commit to this push, he would be even capable of getting rid of the ACU belonging to Tagada. Few Lobos gonna go and die to random pillars. And what else is happening? Is anyone going for a T3 land HQ upgrade or not? This is support factory. This is the HQ, and Mr. Tagada, what are you doing out here? Oh yes, building some Januses from the T2 RHQ. But it seems you're not gonna go for the T3 land yet. You're gonna go and keep on pumping out these little pillars. And I'm really not sure if you wanna keep on investing into this buzzkills and triads here, Mr. Tagada, because I'm afraid that the MML belonging to Nexus is gonna be enough to go and get rid of it. Janos being shot down by the skyboxers, as Mr. Tagada is finally recognized that maybe, just maybe this time, to go and get a gun upgrade on his ACU, as it would actually level out the playfield in here. And yes, all this reclaim gonna go to the hands of Mr. Nexus. It's a shame. But actually, when we look at the air control, it seems like Mr. Nexus is just not caring about it at all. He said, screw it, I can get some mobile flak all around the map and I do not care. Let Tagada have it. A small skirmish on the middle map. We can see pilots exchanging shots. But Mr. Nexus is gonna go and say no, I have to go and fall back and regroup. I don't want to keep a prolonged fight in here. Tagada, yet again, trying to go and rebuild his T2 PDs in here, on the right flank. But like I said before, the MMLs belonging to Nexus, the flapjacks, are gonna go and prove to be quite a pain in the ears. You're gonna go and see them lob missiles in a salvos of 2s. Yep, there it goes, and single buzzkill is not gonna be enough. Actually, T3 land finished for Mr. Nexus. And oh boy, the chat is actually gonna go and use spearheads. a nice choice. Not a unit you see often, but when you see it, it actually packs quite a punch. It most likely have the highest DPS of the T3 siege units of all the factions. A small push from Tagada on the left flank. But Tagada, seeing the T1 PD and a few pillars, is gonna go and say, no, I cannot push in here. Although a few sneaky T1 strikers are gonna keep on moving through the beach side, and as such they're gonna go and pick up a single T1 mass extractor. And like I said, a single Baskill is not enough to go and stop the flapjacks. It's not enough. You can see the PDs taking more and more damage. Actually, the flapjacks, where are they? Never mind, I don't see them. But here are the spearheads lobbing missiles and more missiles. As we can see that this Baskill is just not gonna work out. You can see it taking more and more damage. Kaboom! There it goes. And I'm afraid that there might be even more coming in here, but Mr. Tagada is gonna go and make a short work of the tanks on the left side. Oh no, why are you falling back? You can actually win this little engagement, Tagada. Just keep on pushing. You have Nexus on the back foot, you even have way more economy, because when we look at it, you have 130 mass per tick. Meanwhile, Nexus only on 90 mass, so yep. You're ahead all the time. Scorchers trying to go and snipe the T2 flag, which is just not gonna happen. The ACU of Nexus is gonna go and come to the front line again. Gonna make sure that the front base, the fire base belonging to Tagada, is gonna be no more as the T2 shield pigeon goes down in flames. The left flank actually managed to get secured by a few Percivals, or maybe, yep, it's a single Percival and a single Titan. But this is just enough to go and make Tagada reconsider making a push here. He doesn't want to make it a mass donation. Even more so as he's being pushed back on the right flank. There is a few pillars coming out from the middle valley. Although they are stopped in quite a strange position. Not really being able to hit anything of importance, and as such Tagada is gonna go and move them back. And finally he have his own Percivals on the field. Or actually no, that is Percivals belonging to Nexus. A certified Guile moment. But look, there are the Percivals belonging to Tagada. As he finished his T3 HQ. And it seems he's gonna go and try to move some T2 engineers somewhere with the T1 trans. A small skirmish happening on the east flank, which unfortunately Nexus is gonna lose because the gun ACU belonging to Tagada is here. And honestly, even though Nexus managed to go and reclaim some of the map control that he lost in the early stages of the game, I still don't think that this looks good for him. Because look at this, it's 86 mass, going up against 120 mass per second. Although actually wait, Tagada is stalling as he's trying to go and set up his T3 power in here, although he first will have to go and finish the T2 power gen. Otherwise, this stall is just way too massive, so come on Tagada, go and finish the T2 pigeons first. Because you are literally blind at this moment, even your parashields are not up. As such, you are losing more and more pillars to the Percies on the right flank. A small push on the left flank. But unfortunately, I'm afraid it's not gonna be enough, as parashield is up and running again, or maybe not, it just blinked for a moment. But the Percival from Tagada and pillars are gonna be enough to go and mop down the floor with these units here belonging to Nexus. And as such, unfortunately, yet again, Nexus will be forced to concede the control over the west flank, as Tagada have just way more firepower in here. And the spearheads are just dealing massive damage. You can see them already both gaining the first veterancy level, so both units paid off. The second one is even actually getting the second veterancy level. The T1 radar goes down, and Tagada is gonna go and move his units closer and closer, as we can see that he actually is having more and more Percivals in here. And actually I missed a Percival drop from Nexus, dealing massive damage, getting rid of 3 T2 Maxes. And now a beautiful split move by him, making sure that he can go and deal as much damage as possible. One more T2 Mass Extractor gonna go and fall down in one more hit. There it goes, kaboom! And here goes the fifth one. A really good drop by Mr. Nexus, dealing a lot of economy damage to him. So forget what I said before, he's actually doing just fine at this moment. Another drop coming from him is gonna be a few T1 tanks and assets. Okay, never mind, the T1 tanks just exploded, but the Percival is still alive. But here comes the 3 Percivals being dropped by the Star Courier. Or actually no, it's Star Lifter. Never mind, the T2 transport for UEF. A really nice move, and as such Tagada is gonna go and pick up the Percivals yet again. And most likely gonna go and either drop them behind his base to go and deal with the Yep, he's gonna go and drop them in the north expansion to go and deal with the Percy menace. That was dropped by Mr. Nexus just a few minutes before, and yes, it was a lot of damage, getting rid of 5, 6, 7 T2 Mass Extractors being dead. And as such, it seems like Mr. Nexus is on his best way to actually go and get even. Although he's actually playing really risky with his ACU in here on the right flank. And as such, I'm afraid that if he oversteps his bounds, he might die, because we can see there's a lot of T3 Percivals on the field, supported by lots of parashields and pylars. And as such, Mr. Nexus has to go and stay safe. I really don't think this is a good move, exposing his ACU just like this to this many units, when he has only 2 Percivals in his own unit mix. So far it's going good, so let's go and take a look at what is happening in the middle, but it seems nothing much, because there was not enough units from Nexus to go and deal any kind of lasting damage. As the main fight is actually currently happening on the right flank. As Nexus is playing with fire in here, moving his T1 and T2 engineers. These are not your units. They won't shoot, at best they can try to make a T1 PD. But engineers are incapable of shooting, so I'm not sure why you're bringing them so close to the front line, and your ACU is actually going closer and closer. Oh no. Nexus ACU is dropping down to 7k HP, 6k HP, and is this... No. Nexus! Nexus, not like this. Come on, mate. Come on. I mean, exactly. Exclamation marks, because... What were you thinking, mate? Holy cow. You just walk your ACU alone into a bunch of T3 Percivals without any kind of support at... Oh no. Just when you were actually reclaiming the map control, doing great drops, damaging the economy belonging to Mr. Tagada, you just walk in your ACU to Percivals. Like, oh god. Please tell me you're not gonna play like this in the next games. But yeah, this is it for this video. 2 games played and Tagada clearly in the lead. 2-0. As such, see you in the next games.